Hello, my name is Barry. Welcome to Christianity Explained. Today, we're going to take a look at John Bevere, Bait of Satan book. Yes, the thing was written about at least 10 years ago, and I'm not sure if it was 10 or 20, because the publication date for the one that I got was 2014. And I was planning to do a review last week, but things in the charismatic area of part of the church kind of exploded, if you want to call it that. I'm referring to the craziness and some of the prophetic stuff that's going on. And I thought, talk about timely and poetic. But I am going to be focused on the book and some of the parallel, but you'll have to draw your own conclusion. Now, let's stick with the book. First, I did do a little background check on this guy, John. He is very much for strong church leadership and respecting. In fact, I found one article that was a bit critical of John, where the person thought, and I found out that she was dealing with spiritual abuse and from the church setting or whatever it is. So her reaction was like, oh my God, this, he's putting the pastor in the position of Moses. I don't think I would quite go that far, but uh, now, hold your horses. This is not a let me beat up on John Bevere. No. Actually, there was a lot of good insight. And I also kind of went through some problem when it came to church leadership and dealing with my own ministries and stuff like that. Not quite on the same scale as some people, but I found the book of value. But I'm going to share my perspective, what I've learned, and what I've seen in John's book. First, it would help, and if John ever or Lisa ever review this video, I strongly suggest you put in a couple of additional chapters. And I'm going to touch on one later. As I'm reading and listening to the audio version, yes, there's an audio book uh, version of this very interesting book. Okay. Yes, I'm trying to think on this, on what I'm doing and all that. Sorry, folks. First, it would help to know that John didn't just come out and start saying whatever. He did share in the midst of the book his dealing with problems that he had with church leadership. And one of the first things he strongly recommended, and I happen to agree with him, I'll get to the part where I might differ a little later. And that's it. Begin with prayer. Look, I don't think John Bevere actually believes that your pastor should be on a highly exalted level or pedestal. I don't think so. uh, but I do know this. I've met a lot of wonderful pastors over the years. They're wonderfully flawed human beings. We all make mistakes. I make mistakes, so can they. But they are put in a position of leadership to watch over our souls, to be a guide and a help during the journey that God called, to prepare us for the work that God has for us. That's the whole idea of putting pastors in charge of a small flock, the believers. And and I've read the scripture. We're told not to lord our position over those under us. I'm not in that kind of position, but I'm quoting what Peter warned. Yeah, Peter. Oh yeah, Catholics like to call him the first pope. I think you might want to listen to the guy. Paul says the same thing. He talks about humility. That's one. Two, because pastors and ministry leaders, all that, are flawed human beings, guess what? They make mistakes. We all do. They are not an exception. All right? But thankfully, and I'll give you a great example, and it's actually a friendly one, because the pastor, Warren, uh, and I had a conversation. I was dealing with, he didn't realize I was telling from a place of shame. And he backed up a little bit and said, "Oh, sorry, I misunderstood you." And but at the same time, he gave advice that was tempered with wisdom, because pride is a problem. So, guess what? There is a lot to gain from good leaders and ministers. But sometimes we get caught up in our own thing we don't see, or the problem. And John does talk about those. Oh, and this extra chapter I kind of alluded to and didn't abandon should be a chapter called "In Case You Missed It," meaning John did have to deal with ministry abuse. He did have to deal with being wronged by some other pastors that he had run into. So yeah, he's not an idiot. He knows. He does convey it. He does that. And he shared what he had learned over the years. And the first part is, again, talk to the Father first. Talk with him before you go charging in. Let me get that bottle I can beat. No, talk with the Father first. Listen to what he's saying. Share your problem or your frustration. Let him be the guy and not ourselves. In that respect, I agree with him. But then sometimes you do have to say something. Man, there were some problems I had in an earlier church, I want somebody else, where, yeah, I did have a serious problem. But my mistake was I didn't go and have a talk with the pastor at that time and gave him a chance to correct the problem uh, that I was facing and dealing with. That was my mistake. And yet, yes, I was being hurt in that church. I was being serious, but I didn't think to say, you know what? I better go talk with the pastor of that church and let him know that I don't appreciate being told that I somehow sinned in my mother's womb. Really? And that was hurtful to me, and some of the other stuff. And yet, it was, well, I say hurtful. I don't tend to think of it as offense, but yeah, technically, you could. But that's what John was talking about. He recognizes it. So, yeah. And sometimes it does help to talk. But listen to what God's doing. Follow what He is telling you. But if you do so, do it in a spirit of humility uh, and not like, Pastor, I need to have a talk with you. Okay, it's okay if you're a little angry. That's fine. But try, that's why I said, talk with the Father. Be angry, but do not sin in your anger. Okay? The object is not to beat the crap out of somebody and ram their head through a wall. Trust me on that. It doesn't work. That's one of the things that John tried to get clear through, because he had to. And sometimes, yes, I think the Lord did have to direct. That's good. I commend John on that. Next, he warned against the issue of spiritual vagabonds. In a way, yeah, I kind of ran into that. That is, you're drifting from one place to another, never putting roots down, never dealing with the issues that you're dealing with. And I certainly had that. And he is right to warn against that because sometimes, yes, sometimes it is true. You do need to leave, especially when that's why I left the one church because I was getting hurt badly and I needed to leave. Plain and simple. My mistake was I didn't call the pastor up and let him know why I left and what was going on and that I wasn't coming back to that. That was mine. Two right, uh, two wrongs don't make a right. Okay? And John does point that out. Sometimes you do. And another time, the Holy Spirit put it in my mind to leave a certain church because there was some very heretical teaching that was not good and in line with the word. Again, talk with the pastor. I did talk with that pastor of that church and let him know, hey, I feel a need to leave. In fact, I told him. He was okay with that. All right. And that may have been a good thing for him. I don't know. Leave it in God's hand. That's the other thing. John does point out correctly in the book. Now, there is another aspect, and I guess because this book was about 20 years old, because on the book flap it says 20-year anniversary. So I'll forgive John for not seeing this one. Ooh, it's what some people like John and others like to call the keyboard warrior. You know, the guy who I just gotta get on social media and rip that guy apart. Don't you know what this pastor did? Or get on a YouTube video like this and proceed to verbally beat the crap out of people. There was a time in my life I might have actually joined in if I didn't see the problem that the guys who react were doing and not fun. And yet I am aware of some pastors who are hurting or Bible teachers who are hurting and don't like these attacks. I get it. But guys, two wrongs do not make a right. I repeat, yes, it's not right that some of these guys go in on attack mode, acting like keyboard warriors. I'm not going to disagree. But you coming in and complaining, criticizing, isn't going to help either. What would I have suggested if John and I could have connected, talked about that? The advice I would give for an additional chapter is this, guys, resist the temptation to hop on the internet and tell the world about that particular pastor or that prophet or whoever it is that you're upset with. The fact is, most people actually they'll go, "Oh, you poor soul, yeah, it was good," but guess what? Hey, hi, Alan. Oh, he will come at the appointed time, Alan. But let's focus on praying and pressing into the Lord and sharing the good news of Christ. Let's focus on the thing that God called us to do. Mhm. Hi, Alan. Oh, crap. Alan, can you hear me now? Alan, can you hear me all right? folks, I'm going to have to probably go back and redo this video. Like I said, whether you, all right, like I said at the beginning, we all make mistakes. I actually put my mic all the way over here, and I probably sounded far away. Oh, oh, great. It helped to have a boombox of a voice. So I won't worry. Thanks for the good news, Alan. Hey, the reality is this, folks. It's okay if you're upset. Give it to the Lord and let Him handle, not you. Wow. And folks, if you're wondering what's going on, I'm nearsighted, so I have to uh, look at the screen so I can at least interact. Okay, good. I thought somebody posted again. but, but you understand, it doesn't help anybody. Uh, Writing a big uh, dissertation about why pastor so and so or prophet so and so. I was actually kind of annoyed with a gentleman in the prophetic sphere because of how I was seeing the situation with a lot of the failed prophecies and people not coming out. I was feeling frustrated. But the problem was, I didn't know how to deal with it. So I had to give it, surrender to the Lord, pray, and let Him. And due course, He did give me answers. And that was feed my sheep, focus on teaching people how to deal with prophecy or dealing with offenses rather than charging off with finger pointing. That was the answer he was putting in my heart, and it got a confirmation by listening to Amanda Grace the other day. And she's right. Regardless of what you think, when somebody is right, just say, yes, you're right. Thank you. And that's a good thing. And that's why I share that as something of an extra chapter, because it's not helping. And the people on social media, sure, some people will say, yeah, oh, you poor fella. Others will just capitalize. You're not going to get the help, but who can you go to? Well, in this case, prayer, yes, and sometimes you do have to talk uh, with someone. Like I had that whole thing with the prophetic I just mentioned. I talked with my pastor friend, and he's also a prophet in my church, about it. And he helped me to better understand. And thanks to prayer and patience, the Lord answers and pointed me in a more healthier direction. Do things like that rather than, and this is true, even if you're evangelical and have nothing to do with it, the same principle, because I know a lot of wonderful evangelical types who have the same problem, only it's somebody else. uh, I hope that this is of value and is of help to you. All right, may not be quite what you're wanting, but here's the other thing. And John does touch on this part. It's the importance of forgiving the leader, the person who hurt you, forgiving that pastor for not understanding your calling that God has on your life, that you feel is there. Forgive and let go. Ask the Lord what He is wanting you to do. Because sometimes the conflict you're having, and I certainly did get that, because I had some wonderful friends who just happened to be in position of pastoring at my church, who gave some good advice that seemed ill-fitting because I was doing online ministry. But I'm glad I went through that because they actually helped me in the long run, even though we didn't seem to communicate because I needed to learn. Oh, I need to do a better job articulating. I need to see, okay, yes. And it was helpful. But that's why it's important not to be afraid of conflict and that. I wasn't being rejected. It's just that we didn't know. And I had to learn to act in grace and mercy. Mhm. Because not everybody does online this type of thing. This was a new thing. Mhm. I hope this is proving to be of value. And yes, uh, yeah, John, if you ever listen, I would definitely do a here to in case you missed the thing, because you were doing a very good job touching on some useful points, but I think somebody might have missed it, especially if they're dealing with serious abuses in the church, or they kind of got involved in cults and that. And that's something I wish John, maybe I missed it, but I kind of wish he recognized that part and separated it from the unhealthy, from the healthy church thing, and not just dump it all on the person who was hurt, because it kind of comes off as that. But he did give some helpful ideas. That's why it's important that you have fellowship with people you can actually trust, who are mature, who understand and get, and can help you navigate that. Those things. And yes, the chapter on keyboard and not being a keyboard warrior would be helpful. And pastors, if you somehow are listening to this, please don't get upset over the guys who are on online, because they can be helpful and they can also be a pain in the butt. I know. I've been dealing with this since 2002. Okay. I, so I do know, but I also know bad advice. So let's again pray. Let's not take offense because somebody's doing something we don't like. All right, folks. Hope this review is of value and a help to you. And thanks, Alan, for coming. And hope you guys have a blessed day. Uh, see you when I see you.